Welcome to day 2 of our read aloud. Hope you really liked the book. I was enjoying reading it yesterday, and today it'll be interesting to see what happens with Beezus and Ramona as they go out with Ramona wearing that silly costume. Okay, so I'll start a little bit on the previous page just to refresh our memory. Beezus had thought it was cunning the first time she heard Ramona say it about a year ago. Remember, she had mentioned about the 2 different color eyes. She said that they were brown and white. Everybody has those color eyes, right? So nothing cunning about it. I guess maybe the first time you hear it. Since then, she had given up trying to explain to Ramona that she wasn't supposed to say she had brown and white eyes because Ramona always answered, "My eyes are brown and white." And Beezus had to admit that in a way they were. "And what is the little bunny's name?" asked Mrs. Westerstrom. "My name is Ramona Geraldine Quimby," answered Ramona, and then added generously, "My sister's name is Beezus." "Beezus!" exclaimed the lady. "What an odd name. Is that French?" "Oh, no," said Beezus, wishing, as she so often did, that she had a more common nickname, like Betty or Patsy. She explained as quickly as she could how she happened to be called Beezus. Ramona did not like to lose the attention of her audience. She hitched up the leg of her overalls and raised her knee. "See my scab?" she said proudly. "I fell down and hurt my knee, and it bled and bled." "Ramona!" Beezus was horrified. "You aren't supposed to show people your scabs." "Why?" asked Ramona. That was one of the most exasperating things about Ramona. She never seemed to understand what she was not supposed to do. "It's a very nice scab," said Mrs. Whistler's friend, but she did not look as if she really thought it was nice. And here's a picture of Ramona showing her scab. "Well, we must be going," said Mrs. Whistler. "Goodbye, Mrs. Whistler," said Beezus politely, and hoped that if they met anyone else they knew, she could somehow manage to hide Ramona behind a bush. "Bye-bye, Ramona," said Mrs. Whistler. "Goodbye," said Ramona, and Beezus knew that she felt that a girl who was 4 years old was too grown-up to say bye-bye. Except for holding Ramona's hand crossing streets, Beezus lingered behind her the rest of the way to the library. She hoped that all the people who stopped and smiled at Ramona would not think they were together. When they reached the Glenwood Branch Library, she said, "Ramona, would you like me to carry your ears for you now?" "No," said Ramona flatly. Inside the library, Beezus hurried Ramona into the boys and girls section and seated her on a little chair in front of the picture books. "See, Ramona?" she whispered. "Here's a book about a duck. Wouldn't you like that?" "No," said Ramona in a loud voice. Beezus's face turned red with embarrassment when everyone in the library looked at Ramona's ears and smiled. "Shh," she whispered as Miss Greaver, the grown-ups librarian, frowned in their direction. "You're supposed to speak quietly in the library." Beezus selected another book. "Look, Ramona, here's a funny story about a kitten that falls into the goldfish bowl. Wouldn't you like that?" "No," said Ramona in a loud whisper. "I want to find my own book." If only Miss Evans, the children's librarian, were there. She would know how to select a book for Ramona. Beezus noticed Miss Greaver glanced disapprovingly in their direction, while the other grown-ups watched Ramona and smiled. "All right, you can look," Beezus agreed. To keep Ramona quiet, "I'll go find a book for myself." When Beezus had selected her book, she returned to the picture book section, where she found Ramona sitting on the bench with both arms clasped around a big flat book. "I found my book," she said, and held it up for Beezus to see. On the cover was a picture of a steam shovel with its jaws full of rocks. The title was Big Steve, the Steam Shovel. "Oh, Ramona," whispered Beezus in dismay. "You don't want that book?" "I do too," insisted Ramona, forgetting to whisper. "You told me I could pick out my own book." Under the disapproving stare of Miss Greaver, Beezus gave up. Ramona was right. Beezus looked with distaste at the big orange-colored book in its stout library binding. At least it would be due in 2 weeks. But Beezus did not feel very happy at the thought of 2 more weeks of steam shovels. And it just went to show how Ramona always got her own way. Beezus took her book and Ramona's to Miss Greaver's desk. "Is this where you pay for the book?" asked Ramona. "We don't have to pay for the books," said Beezus. "Are you going to charge them?" Ramona asked. Beezus pulled her library card out of her sweater pocket. "I show this card to the lady, and she lets us keep the books for 2 weeks. A library isn't like a store where you buy things." Ramona looked as if she did not understand. "I want a card," she said. "You have to be able to write your own name before you can have a library card," Beezus explained. "I can write my name," said Ramona. "Oh, Ramona," says Beezus, "you can't either." "Perhaps she really does know how to write her name," said Miss Greaver, as she took a card out of her desk. Beezus watched doubtfully while Miss Greaver asked Ramona to write her name and age. Then the librarian asked Ramona what her father's occupation was. When Ramona didn't understand, she asked, "What kind of work does your dad? What kind of work does your father do?" "He mows the lawn," says Ramona promptly. The librarian laughed. "I mean, how does he earn a living?" Somehow Beezus did not like to have Miss Greaver laugh at her little sister. After all, how could Ramona be expected to show what father did? "He works for the Pacific Gas and Electric Company," Beezus told the librarian. Miss Greaver wrote this down on the card and shoved it across the desk to Ramona. "Write your name on this line," she directed. Nothing daunted, Ramona grasped the pencil in her fist and began to write. She bore down so hard that the tip snapped off the lead, but she wrote on. When she laid down the pencil, Beezus picked up the card to see what she had written. And here's a picture of Ramona trying to write her name. She looks so silly in those, with those ears and trying to show the lady what she knows. It's a kind of a funny situation. I can't imagine. She's only 4, so if you have little brothers or sisters, you can imagine. And here's an example of what her signature looks like. The line on the card was filled with what I showed you. "That's my name," said Ramona proudly. "That's just scribbling," Beezus told her. "It is too my name," insisted Ramona, while Miss Greaver quietly dropped the card into the wastebasket. "I've watched you write, and I know how. Here, Ramona, you can hold my card." Beezus tried to be comforting. "You could pretend it's yours." Ramona brightened at this, and Miss Greaver checked out the books on Beezus's card. As soon as they got home, Ramona demanded, "Read my new book to me." And so Beezus began. Big Steve was a steam shovel. He was the biggest steam shovel in the whole city. When she finished the book, she had to admit she liked Big Steve better than Scoopy. His only sound effects were tooting and growling. He tooted and growled in big letters on every page. Big Steve did not shed tears or want to be a pile driver. He worked hard at being a steam shovel, and by the end of the book, Beezus had learned a lot about steam shovels. Unfortunately, she did not want to learn about steam shovels. Oh well, she guessed she could stand 2 weeks of Big Steve. "Read it again," said Ramona enthusiastically. "I like Big Steve. He's better than Scoopy." "How would you like me to show you how to really write your name?" Beezus asked, hoping to divert Ramona from steam shovels. "Okay," agreed Ramona. Beezus found pencil and paper and wrote Ramona in large, careful letters across the top of the paper. Ramona studied it critically. "I don't like it," she said at last. "But that's the way your name's spelled," Beezus explained. "You didn't make dots and lines," said Ramona, seizing the pencil. She wrote. "But Ramona, you don't understand." Beezus took the pencil and wrote her own name on the paper. "You've seen me write Beatrice, which has an I and a T in it. See, like that. You don't have an I or a T in your name, because it isn't spelled that way." Ramona looked skeptical. She grabbed the pencil again and wrote with a flourish. So here's the 2 ways that she's going to try to convince Beatrice that that's how you should spell Ramona. "That's my name because I like it," she announced. I like to make dots and lines." Lying flat on her stomach on the floor, she proceeded to fill the paper with I's and T's. "But, Ramona, nobody's name is spelled with just—" Beezus stopped. What was the use? Trying to explain spelling and writing to Ramona was too complicated. Everything became difficult when Ramona was around. Even an easy thing like taking a book out of the library. Well, if Ramona was happy thinking her name was spelled with I's and T's, she could go ahead and think it. The next 2 weeks were fairly peaceful. Mother and father soon tired of tooting and growling, and, like Beezus, they looked forward to the big day Big Steve was due at the library. Father even tried to hide the book behind the radio, but Ramona soon found it. Beezus was happy that one part of her plan had worked. Ramona had forgotten the littlest steam shovel now that she had a better book. On Ramona's second trip to the library, perhaps Miss Evans could find a book that would make her forget steam shovels entirely. Do you know what's going to happen? Think about what might happen when she has to return that book to the library. How do you think Ramona's going to act? Do you think she'll have a strong reaction? Do you think she'll just get a different book? Just a lot of different steam shovel books? I'm not sure. We have a couple more pages in this chapter. Wow, these chapters are really long. I don't even know if we'll finish the second chapter. That's funny. As for Ramona, she was perfectly happy. She had 3 people to read aloud a book she liked, and she spent much of her time covering sheets of paper with I's and T's. Sometimes she wrote in pencil, sometimes she wrote in crayon, and once she wrote in ink until her mother caught her at it. Finally, to the relief of the rest of the family, the day came when Big Steve had to be returned. "Come on, Ramona," said Beezus. "It's time to go to the library for another book." "I have a book," said Ramona, who was lying on her stomach writing her version of her name on a piece of paper with purple crayon. "No, it belongs to the library," Beezus explained, glad that for once Ramona couldn't possibly get in her way. "It's my book," said Ramona, crossing several T's with a flourish. "Beezus is right, dear," observed Mother. "Run along and get Big Steve." Ramona looked sulky, but she went into the bedroom. In a few minutes she appeared with Big Steve in her hand and a satisfied expression on her face. "It's my book," she announced. "I wrote my name in it." That doesn't sound like a good idea." Mother looked alarmed. "What do you mean, Ramona? Let me see." She took the book and opened it. Every page in the book was covered with enormous purple I's and T's in Ramona's very best handwriting. "Mother," cried Beezus, "look what she's done! And in crayon, so it won't erase." "Ramona Quimby," said Mother, "you're a very naughty girl. Why did you do a thing like that?" "It's my book," said Ramona stubbornly. "I like it." "Mother, what am I going to do?" Beezus demanded. "It's checked out on my card. I'm responsible. They won't let me take out any more books out of the library, and I won't have anything to read, and it will all be Ramona's fault. She's always spoiling my fun, and it isn't fair." Beezus didn't know what she would do without her library card. She couldn't get along without library books. She just couldn't. That was all. "I do not spoil your fun," stormed Ramona. "You have all the fun. I can't read, and it isn't fair." Ramona's words ended in a howl as she buried her face in her mother's skirt. "I couldn't read when I was your age, and I didn't have someone to read to me all the time, so it is fair," argued Beezus. "You always get your own way, because you're the youngest." "I do not," shouted Ramona, "and you don't read all the time. You're mean." And this is what's going on in their house. So if you're fighting with your siblings, hopefully you're not, you can understand, right? "I am not mean," Beezus shouted back. "Children," cried Mother. "Stop it, both of you. Ramona, you were a very naughty girl." A loud sniff came from Ramona. "And Beezus," her mother continued, "the library won't take your card away from you. If you'll get my purse, I'll give you some money to pay for the damage to the book. Take Ramona along with you. Explain what happened, and the librarian will tell you how much to pay." This made Beezus feel better. Ramona sulked all the way to the library, but when they got there, Beezus was pleased to see that Miss Evans, the children's librarian, was sitting behind the desk. Miss Evans was the kind of librarian who would understand about little sisters. "Hello, Beatrice," said Miss Evans. "Is this your little sister I've heard so much about?" Beezus wondered what Miss Evans had heard about Ramona. "Yes, this is Ramona," she said, and went on hesitantly. "And Miss Evans, I'm a bad girl," interrupted Ramona, smiling winningly at the librarian. "Oh, you are," said Miss Evans. "What did you do?" "I wrote in a book," said Ramona, not the least ashamed. "I wrote in purple crayon and will never, ever erase. Never, never, never." Embarrassed, Beezus handed Miss Evans Big Steve the steam shovel. "Mother gave me the money to pay for the damage," she explained. The librarian turned the pages of the book. "Well, you didn't miss a page, did you?" she finally said to Ramona. "No," said Ramona, pleased with herself, "and it will never, never—" "I'm awfully sorry," interrupted Beezus. "After this, I'll try to keep our library books where she can't reach them." Miss Evans consulted a file of little cards in a drawer. "Since every page in the book was damaged, and the library can no longer use it, I'll have to ask you to pay for the whole book. I'm sorry, but this is the rule. It will cost $2.50. $2.50! What a lot of things that would have bought!" Beezus reflected as she pulled 3 folded dollar bills out of her pocket and handed them to the librarian. Miss Evans put the money in a drawer and gave Beezus 50 cents in change. Then Miss Evans took a rubber stamp and stamped something inside the book. By twisting her head around, Beezus could see that the word was "discarded." "There," Miss Evans said, pushing the book across the desk. "You have paid for it, so now it's yours." Beezus stared at the librarian. You mean to keep?" "That's right," answered Miss Evans. Ramona grabbed the book. "It's mine! I told you it was mine!" Then she turned to Beezus and said triumphantly, "You said people didn't buy books at the library, and now you just bought one." "Buying a book and paying for damage are not the same thing," Miss Evans pointed out to Ramona. Okay, so tomorrow we'll finish that chapter, and maybe we'll be able to read a little bit of the next one. Have a great night.